Earl Johnson was 72 years old when it happened. He and his wife Lillian had been married nearly 50 years, and every afternoon they had this small routine, walking to the corner store in Brookdale, a quiet little neighborhood where folks usually just minded their business. That day, the sun was hanging low, the heat bouncing off the pavement, and Earl carried a paper bag with a loaf of bread and some vegetables, while Lillian clutched his hand the way she always did when her knees felt unsteady. They were halfway across the sidewalk when two uniforms stepped into their path. Officer Troy Daniels, tall, broad-shouldered, with that kind of sneer people never forget, and behind him his partner, Officer Ryan Carter, slower but colder eyes scanning like he owned the block. Daniels looked straight at Earl's bag and barked, "What's in there, old man? Stolen groceries? Or did you pay with food stamps you never earned?" The words sliced through the air. Lillian tightened her grip on Earl's hand, whispering, "Let's just go home." Earl wanted to keep walking, but Daniel shoved a hand against his chest, forcing him back a step. Carter leaned down close to Lillian's face, voice low and venomous. "Keep your eyes down, lady, unless you want trouble." People on the sidewalk slowed. A couple of phones lifted recording, but most just stared. Earl's jaw tightened. He'd worked 4 decades at the shipyard, carried crates heavier than any man half his age, never asked for a handout. He raised his chin and said, calm but steady, "We paid for every bit of this with honest wages. Nothing to be ashamed of." Daniel smirked, then smacked the bag out of his hands. Tomatoes burst on the pavement, red juice smearing the bricks like blood. Lillian dropped to her knees, trying to scoop up what she could, her thin hands trembling. Daniels laughed a sound meant to humiliate. "Dignity," he mocked. "With skin like yours, dignity is a joke." The crowd flinched. Someone whispered, "They didn't do anything." An older man with a cane tapped it against the sidewalk in protest, but no one stepped in yet. Earl Bent helped his wife gather the broken food, then rose slowly, his body shaking, but his eyes sharp. "You can crush vegetables," he said, "but you won't crush our dignity." For a second, Daniels froze, then his rage boiled over. He yanked Earl's arm behind him, metal cuffs snapping shut. The old man's knees hit the pavement and pain shooting through his bones. Carter pushed Lillian down beside him, her cry muffled against his heavy hand. The sight of two gray-haired elders forced to the ground hit like a gut punch. Phones came up higher, recording every angle. A child nearby started to cry. And then Earl's voice, raw but unbroken, spoke into the silence. "My skin is not a crime. It's proof of a life worked in sweat." The words cracked something open. A young woman in the crowd shouted, "Enough, let them go." Daniels whipped his head around, eyes blazing, but the air had changed. The murmurs grew louder, building into a chorus. By nightfall, the 30-second clip was everywhere online. Earl kneeling, Lillian trembling, Daniels sneering. The images spread like wildfire. A hashtag appeared, hashtag justice for Johnsons, and within hours it was trending nationwide. People wrote, "What if that were my parents? This isn't just them. This is all of us." The next day, the grocery store corner turned into a protest site. Neighbors, students, church folks. Everybody poured in, holding signs. Chants rose steady and fierce. Justice for the Johnsons. Daniels and Carter tried to bark orders, but their voices drowned beneath hundreds shouting in unison. Reporters swarmed cameras, catching every grimace, every tear, every raised fist. And then came the leak. Old files surfaced showing both officers had long records, assault complaints, racial slurs, excessive force, all quietly buried. The city boiled. Signs now read, "Not the first time and we won't stay silent." The trial was inevitable. Earl and Lillian walked into the courtroom, hand in hand, greeted by applause that shook the walls. The prosecution played the video on a giant screen. Earl forced down Lillian, crying, Daniels laughing. You could feel the whole room stiffen, some wiping away tears, others clenching their fists. Witnesses testified. A doctor showed Earl's bruised wrists, the shipyard scars underlined by fresh purple welts. A store owner confirmed they'd paid in full. And then came the audio Daniel's own voice recorded on someone's phone. These people were born to be cuffed. They look right only on their knees. The room went dead quiet, then erupted in gasps. No defense could wash that away. The jury barely exchanged glances before returning the verdict: guilty of abuse of power, guilty of racial discrimination. When the judge read the sentence, his words echoed like thunder. No one stands above the law. And the law does not see color. The courtroom exploded in applause, tears, shouts of joy. Outside, thousands chanted, drums and horns rising with the cry, "Justice for the Johnsons." Earl bowed his head, tears running down his weathered cheeks, but a faint smile spread. Lillian squeezed his hand, whispering, "We made it." Their faces, once humiliated on a sidewalk, now filled murals, posters, and news screens. They'd become symbols not because they wanted to, but because dignity refused to die. Yet when reporters crowded him after the verdict, Earl didn't gloat. He simply said, voice quiet but firm, "Justice doesn't come from a courtroom. It comes from people who refuse to look away." And maybe that's the question we're all left with. What do you do when you see someone humiliated in public? Do you stay silent or do you rise up? Tell me in the comments, if you had been on that sidewalk, would you have spoken up, or is silence safer? Let's talk about it, because justice only lives if we keep it alive together.